Our purpose is basically to create a space for Pakistani Americans and Pakistanis, to celebrate their culture and, like if Eid is happening or something, like we'll have fun and we'll celebrate that because, a lot of us are away from home. So it's just a nice way to like create community. And then this event is a collaboration with the PSA, NAPA, and Pakistani Americans Think Tank. And the think tank, they host a lot of interesting events with a lot of interesting speakers. So today, the discussion will be hosted by Steve Mo, who is the General Secretary of Pakistani American Think Tank. He has a master's in international relations and political science. He is a senior writer, news anchor, and he used to be a lecturer in international affairs. So I'd like to welcome him to
Ladies and gentlemen, and Pakistani Student Association, Pakistani American Think Tank, it is really an honor and prestige that we have a program with young brains. Being a student of international affairs, I always believe that the youngsters, especially if you live in unipolar world, American institutions and education system are one of the best system around the world. And once again, we are very thankful to you. Today, we have some very honorable, very prestigious personalities among us. And I do hope then when they will express their views, you will be and we will be get more knowledge and experience. What is the media? What is the purpose and objective of media, international politics, the local mainstream politics in America, and as well as what's going on bilateral and multilateral affairs around the world. And once again, thank you very much. And let me introduce my honorable guest. She came all the way from Washington, D.C. In Pakistan. She's basically from Pakistan, but Bukhari is a media and development professional with a diverse background, including international experience in finance and banking, having worked Citibank, the London Stock Exchange. She has a master in business administration from Lahore University of Management Sciences. LUMS is one of the best college in Pakistan, not only the Pakistan but also around the world. She has a Bachelor of Arts from Kennett College for Women, Lahore, Pakistan. She has written extensively on current affairs, including for the BBC, Al Jazeera, The Print, Dawn, and more. Has worked as a television anchor for Express 24/7. She is fluent in Urdu and English. She is a columnist. She writes current issues, human rights, civil military dynamics in Pakistan, and she is a very active nowadays to fight for injustices in Pakistan. She is a very active. Let me introduce with your round of applause Bukhari to please Professor Bukhari come back.
Feels a bit strange. आप भी आ जाएं. आप भी आ जाइए.
And I introduce in America, politics is an everyday business. And if you want to involve yourself in politics, especially local, state, or federal level, you have to work every day and look like we have one of the most beautiful face. She is a candidate for presidential candidates in 2020. We met him in December 25th, and whatever she said for entire crowd of Pakistani American women, young girls and kids, it was very remarkable. And I always said, everybody need a power. I also need a power. You need a power. But Christine Powers is the symbol of woman power. She is a symbol for struggle. She's a symbol to struggle not only for her family, but she, if you go to the Google, because nowadays it's very easy, if you want to know anyone, you just go write down the name of certain person. But when I write down the name 2 months ago, I really feel proud that she is such a beautiful voice for not only for specific communities but multi-ethnic community in United States of America. Please come, Christine Power, with your round of applause. Christine Power.
Did you want me to speak now or say?
No, let me introduce two more. Respected guest, students of Pakistani, American, and in Pakistani politics it's not easy. In Pakistani politics, especially in America, is one of the very hard tasks. But there are some stars in our Pakistani American community. They always work for positive approach. And Mr. Rahil Dar, he is one of the pioneer in intellectual politics. I use the word intellectual politics because whenever he speech, he deliver with good myth and deeds to show the right direction, not only for our community, but as long he has a command in national politics in Pakistan and international global affairs. Please welcome Rahil Dar. And let me speak my one more guest. He worked for political analyst. He has lot of services in Caribbean affairs. He has command in politics. He knows the politics. Mr. James, where is James? Mr. James, please request to the Mr. James come here. Honorable Speaker, student of Pakistani Student Association of New York, we have a very honorable, very prestigious speakers. They have a command to speak all night, but we don't want to stay all night here. But they know in their field what they are doing. And today we have to listen them. Everyone, they knows what is the aims and objective, especially in media. Does the media is working honestly around the world? Because nowadays we just see the media only working in Twitter and social media. But in social media, the 80% news which we have seen is mostly fake news. So we have to condemn these all fake news which are not only destroy the communities, which only not destroy the bilateral but bilateral relations. So, and the politics, I just said the politics is an everyday game. It depends who you are. So let me introduce and let me call Mr. James first. He's the first speaker, and we would like to know that what he has in his mind to say about politics and media. Request to the Mr. James, please come here.
Good afternoon. My name is James Archibald. I'm the president of U.S. Caribbean Asian Development. Actually, the last 15 years, we've been doing a number of political issues in the community, trying to elect a lot of judges to the local office in terms of the civil court as well as Supreme Court. But we have worked with a number of senators, assembly members, and prior to me getting involved with the political elections, I worked with Congressman Major Owens as a special assistant for 6 years, and prior to that with City Council, Unit Park in Brooklyn. I got in politics some 20 years ago with the Prime Minister we have currently in Grenada, which my original country of birth. I'm now a U.S. citizen, and we get engaged in a lot of, like I said, campaign issues. I was invited by Abdullah, and I'm pleased to be here, and also pleased to meet Ms. Fowler. I think the last name speaks for itself. Howard. So it's, I'm here really to observe and to meet and to hear what's going on. I didn't know actually I was going to speak, so I didn't prepare anything of essence to say to you, but I just wanted you to know that I'm here. I'm willing to listen and see how we can engage, whether it's on my level or maybe with the company, U.S. Caribbean Asian Development, which we do a lot of political campaigns. So Brooklyn as well as New York is my base, and I'm willing to share or exchange or get engaged with whatever we can do to help.
Thank you. That's it?
Yeah.
You have to read a couple of pages, but thank you very much. You introduce yourself.
Actually, it would be great to know what the Caribbean issues are that you work on.
Well, actually, in looking at this with Venezuela, I mean, within the Eastern Caribbean region, we've been having a lot of, uprising here and there. And Venezuela is happening to be a hot spot right now going on in the Caribbean. I think it goes back to
Invaded by Reagan. Invaded by Reagan.
Well, Reagan actually were part of my time during Grenada. Actually, the country that I'm from, Grenada had a revolution in 1979, March 30, 1979. And that part of the region, actually, we had Cuba, and then they had Nicaragua, but the U.S. was not much of a, they didn't see these countries as a threat to the U.S. because they were Spanish speaking. But when Grenada got involved in the election, it was looked at, the Grenadian, they speak fully English, and they could relate to the African Americans. So the U.S. got very kind of interested in Grenada and what Grenada was trying to put on the map, So Ronald Reagan stopped the revolution at that point in time. But now we have seen a number of countries within the Caribbean having similar issues, Mexico in terms of, migration and what happened with the economy, so. But, really and truly, I mean, here in New York, I mean, whatever I could do to help in terms of, campaign, like I said, we do a number of campaigns for our senators. We get involved in the mayor's election, gubernatorial election. And it's a process. I mean, I've met a lot of people in the Pakistani community. I don't have to know I was going to see my dear friend here. We work together on a lot of issues. Every time we have candidates, actually, we'll bring them to the Pakistani community. The Pakistani community have been a tremendous source for us, within the Caribbean context. We have worked very, very closely with the Pakistani community for many years. I think the last 15 years, especially the last year with Abdullah worked with us on one of the Pakistani candidate that run for a district leader, and we have few of them emerging to run in other races. But I'm here. It's a pleasure to work with the Pakistani community over the years. I want to thank you guys because you have done a lot. Actually, Hakim Jeffrey, who is our Democratic chair under the new Congress, the Pakistani community, I could tell you when he first run for assembly, I was one of his organizers with him. And the Pakistani community, without even knowing him, donated $10,000 and 15 cars. When he ran for Congress, we saw it again with some of the local guys got together, and they were able to give $8,000 and I think 10 cars again to help during the election. Today he is the chairman for the Democratic Party. So I would say to the Pakistani community, continue doing what you're doing and whatever I could do to help, because you have always helped me in terms of some of the races we have done in Brooklyn. We have done a number of judges over the last 3 years. We've been very successful by putting quite a few judges on the bench. The Pakistani community have been very, very helpful. So, like I said, I'm here to help in whatever way I can, and to, in a matter of fact, kind of a giving back to the Pakistani community for that of which you have given to us as U.S. Caribbean, as well as, the politicians in Brooklyn that you have had the opportunity of working with. So I would like to say thank you. And some of the guys from the press, well, you have seen us every year. We have bring a number of candidates to you. So it's like I said, it's a pleasure working with this community.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, James. And my next speaker, I mentioned, he is one of the he has a intellectual political will. He is the president of one of the prominent Pakistani party, Pakistan Muslim League Noon. Pakistan Muslim League Noon, more than 35 years, not only in Pakistan, around the world, they are workers, they are political workers, they are working, they are representing their parties. And Mr. Rohil Dar, he is the president of Pakistan Muslim League Noon in America, United States of America. Please welcome Mr. Rohil Dar.
Thank you so much, Salim Malik. I'm very honored to be here. Bukhari, Ms. Powers, James, ladies and gentlemen, very, very good evening. It's a great, immensely pleasure also for me because this happens to be also my college. I'm an alumni of NYU. But I've never thought of that I'll be coming here to speak on one of the burning issues. I think the topic tonight is the censorship in Pakistan, and also what the human rights and the civil movements are, what they mean to be in US or back home in Pakistan. I think American think tank has done a great job. I really appreciate Raja Sahab and Salim Malik to holding such a beautiful evening. And on personal level, I was very fond of meeting Bukhari. She has been an instrument, not for people like us, but anybody who believes in democracy and civil rights and law and order in any society would like to follow somebody like Bukhari. Speaking of, I'm kind of flattered by Mr. Salim Malik's comments. I'm not that of an intellectual, but all I always believed in is that I come from Pakistan. It's my motherland, and US happens to be my homeland now, and it's so important to have this connection always there, and not to forget where you come from and what you can do to help your motherland. I wish if things would have gone better, I would have never migrated to US. But I came in pursuit of higher education, and then as the events rolled on, I happened to stay back here, and I always miss my motherland every day of my life. But having said that, doesn't mean that we cannot do something for your loved ones here in the United States, living here, for your countrymen, also back home, people who you love. And the biggest thing you can contribute to your people you love is to stand by them and tell them what is right or wrong. Because we all are big boys and big girls. We can do what is right for us and for people around us. But sometimes things get so illusioned that you don't have a clear path or a clear sight of the things which are coming across. And I think what has happened back home is an alarming thing for everybody who lives there or lives here. Anybody who believes in human rights, anybody who believes in rule of law, anybody who believes in human development, and anybody who believes that human dignity is something which God has given to, not by just granted us, but we have to earn it. And I've seen over and over again that people who have power, they tend to roll over or walk over people who are powerless, or people who cannot speak for themselves. You can talk about this country. We're living in a Trump era. And you've seen what happened to human values here, right in our own eyes. This fear of unknown has taken countries apart, have taken people apart, have torn up continents, have torn up civilizations. And we have a right, or we have an obligation to come and speak out and bring people together and tell people who they are and what they should believe in. And I can tell you, the more you talk to people, and more you communicate, the more you network and bring people to speed, it really pays off. And the dividends are unbelievable. And I've seen it over and over again. Now with the advent of social media, I think we have a perfect platform. Those days are gone when you can suppress the voice or suppress opinions. Now people can speak up. They can speak up as you wish and as you feel and as you believe in. And James is right. I mean, for the past 15 years, living in the US, who can think of that people living in Brooklyn, especially Pakistani diaspora, can help elect candidates and elect people in offices? And I think we did that. I just go back to Congressman, if you remember, Gary from Solars from New York, from Brooklyn. He was the congressman who was not against Pakistan as a stance, but as a principle. He was uprooting us every day. He would belong to Indian caucus, and he really did so much harm to Pakistan at a national level that the Pakistanis living in Brooklyn stood up to it. And we made sure that he doesn't win his constituency again. And that happened because people spoke, they stood up. They wanted what the rights are, and they went out and then they fought in the streets. I think same has to happen today, not here, but in Pakistan. And I tell you why I'm saying this. The media censorship today, which is under a doctrine which has been enforced in Pakistan, which has kept not just the dissent in order, but also they have tried to suppress every voice of conscience in Pakistan. And I think in any society, dissent is the strength of society. It's not a weakness of society. People who tell you that dissent is unpatriotic, they are wrong. As a matter of fact, the patriotism comes from dissent. If you don't disagree, you cannot agree to anything. The first thing is to disagree with things we don't agree to, and then you come to a point that you can agree to something which is constructive for the country, for society, and for everybody around us. So I believe that we have to speak up. And living in this country gives us the perfect opportunity we can do something for our country. And that's why I came all the way from Long Island just to spend a few minutes with Gul Bukhari and then to tell her and let her know that we all stand by her. It's not easy to stand up to a tyranny in Pakistan. It's not easy. The regime in Pakistan at the moment, it's a facade which has been put together. I'm not saying because I belong to a certain party. I'm just talking to you as a fellow Pakistani and as somebody who has seen things from all sides. And I'm telling you, the way this country is being run now is being brought to a point that you cannot go in this country anymore. The biggest thing you can do to a society or country is the human development. And if you have the resources, Pakistan is an underdeveloping country. It's not a developed country. And it's underdeveloping. We still have to fight poverty. We still have to fight people who don't have anything not to put on the table, but also to bring back to society. A country like this, you cannot put all your resources not to work for the people of the country. We are not a security state, but we have been turned into a security state. We don't need to fight with every conflict in the region. We don't have to be involved in anything which has nothing to do with us. I'm not being stochastic or anything, starting from Palestine to Kashmir to Afghanistan to India to Iran, you name it. Pakistan does not belong to any conflict except Kashmir. Kashmir is a conflict which could be resolved in so many ways except fighting. So I think we have to wake up, we have to stand up to our rights, and the right is that people have a right to be socially developed. People have to have development not in the sense of resources, but also in education, in social services. People in Pakistan are dying. I mean, today, if you look at society, it's being torn apart. And the reason is there's so much threat and so much of fear which have been put in the society that even the superior courts cannot function properly. You see every day the Pakistan's judiciary is under a lot of pressure. Pakistan media is under a lot of pressure. People cannot speak up. People cannot say anything. And people who say something, they are forcibly made to disappear. People come to people's houses. I mean, there is security forces come in without warrants, without any legit reasons. They take away people from their loved ones. And we see it every day. If you don't speak up and if you don't resist to it, believe me, it's going to be, today is him or her, and tomorrow is going to be me or you. So I think we have a sort of a responsibility not to speak up, but also to do something in our own capacity to divert things which will help only not just you and me, but our people, our friends, our families, and on top of it, all humanity. So this is what I think we are here for. This is a very I think, conscious gathering tonight is not goes by the number of people we have, but the people who are believe in movements, in people who can believe and do something. If you have 100 people who don't want to do anything, and you have one guy who wants to do something, that's more important to do something. So I think if we all can say or share something or tweet something, go on social media, raise your voice, come out, communicate, and tell people what's happening, it's going to help everybody around. That's all I'm here for. Again, thank you so much for giving me an opportunity. And I hope that we can get to something meaningful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rahil Dar. Ladies and gentlemen and dear students, this evening wasn't possible if Nusrat was not behind this program. So let me request to the Nusrat to please come and say something about Nusrat. She is one of the very vibrant girl. I don't use the words women, the girls in Pakistani American community. Because I have to go back home too.
Well, I was not really expecting to speak. However, it's a great platform to come together as a community at NYU and talk about community affairs or what's happening in America, what's happening in Pakistan, all together with the students. There is no better way, because we are sitting with the future of America, future of Pakistan, global leaders of the world actually. So I happened to stumble upon great educators who are part of NYU, and through which I have become summer faculty here. So whenever any community group asks me to somewhat help out in bringing community affairs to the students here, I try my level best to do it. It's not always possible because it's not that easy. Somehow, I think with the luck of draw, this affair with Shazil's support, we are able to make it happen. So thank you to Shazil, thank you to PSA for allowing us to come in here and allowing us to make these great leaders of our community, of our country, to be here and then speak about it. Gul, I'm a big fan of hers myself too, because she's an activist and not just a regular one, but she's trying to change the mindset in Pakistan. I was reading about her before I came here. A lot of people call her lioness in Pakistan, which means that she is doing some daring things. And the same way I can say Kristen has become quite a dear friend. I may say that because we've been talking about politics in America, and as a Pakistani American or a diaspora of Pakistani descent here, I believe that we need to play a role for both countries. We have more responsibility. We have roots back in Pakistan, and we are living here. So we are actually global citizens, and we need to be active at both places. Pakistan has recently given e-voting rights to their Pakistani diaspora or overseas Pakistanis. I believe that we need to get engaged in that. And we all Pakistani Americans here are, if they are Americans and can vote, we need to practice that right. That's very important. And social activism, as Dar Saab has mentioned, is also very important through social media platform. I try my level best, because I have more following of educators and students, to write more in an easier way to create awareness. However, I'm still a learner, and I have a lot of teachers here and colleagues here who help me learn about how I can engage a younger audience more. Okay, so thank you very much again.
Thank you, Nusrat. Pakistani American think tank really appreciate your efforts, and once again very thankful to Pakistani Student Association, and we must keep in touch in future if you give us any opportunities to come and get together, say something about global, bilateral or multilateral politics and affairs, even the common ground. And before I call my honorable guest Gul Bukhari, I just mentioned that. Let me introduce my final speaker, Rana Ramzan. He is coming from Chappaqua, Westchester, might be 40 miles from here. All this hustle and traffic, but he say he will come. When we request that, there is a lot of students. He is one of the founder and the chief organizer of the lawyer movement, which started 2007. He is a very senior lawyer. Please welcome Rana Ramzan, educator. And ladies and gentlemen, and my dear students, when I started 1987, I started one of the prominent newspaper in Pakistan as a writer, Nawai Waqt. In 1990s, when we started our career as a media person in Pakistan TV, it was not easy. But nowadays we have hundreds of channels, not only Pakistan but every country. We have so much channels, dozens of channels. Today we all enjoying our freedom in social media, regardless is right or wrong. But we exercise every day in Twitter and Facebook. But in Pakistan, not easy when you say truth. And they are different, very well-educated, well-known Pakistani American social organizations. They are working for Pakistan. So if you come in different occasion, believe me, you will find some better way, and you guys can help us. Thank you, Brother Azhar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much, Malik Saab. This program should be conducted in both languages, in Urdu and in English. So that was the point I wanted to add. Actually, when you describe something in English, you have a very limited vocabulary. But Urdu language is such a rich language that you have multiple words to describe something you like to talk about or you want to say something. So whenever we have to satisfy our soul, there are certain words, they have to be asked or taught in Urdu language. So, whenever we have a question answer session, all the journalists, they are most welcome to ask a question in Urdu and in English. So, we get the real message delivered. When we only sometimes restrict ourselves to a certain language, sometimes we cannot deliver our real message. So, that was the message I wanted to convey, and I thank you so much, Kristen Power. You came all the way from Florida again to attend this beautiful gathering, and especially this venue is very important. And I also very thankful to Gul Bukhari. We are very lucky when I sent her message and I asked her, how are you? And she said, I'm in Washington, D.C. in these days. And I said, why don't you come and join us so we can learn, the current affair in Pakistan and the censorship which Pakistan media is facing. Actually, I believe, and I strongly believe, that Pakistan is going through a martial law which is worst kind, in a history. I mean, we have never seen such a martial law, because this is a different form of martial law, that in the front we have a puppet civilian government, but all the control have other powers. They are running the country, which is, I think, very damaging for Pakistan, which is very damaging for the future of Pakistan. And we people who are working through the social media, it is our duty to highlight, the things which are happening. Unfortunately, people living in Pakistan, they don't have that kind of a liberty to express their feelings. But at least, some courageous people are there, like Bukhari and Rizwan Razi, who was arrested today, unfortunately. He was very vocal on the media, and also he was very active on Twitter and other social media platforms. So those kind of people are being abducted and being arrested for no reason. I mean, if you go a year back, they have all kind of liberty. They can, do anything they want. They had no restrictions. But now, so, since the government changed, now everything, all the control is gone to the power, those powers, who have hidden martial law imposed in Pakistan. They don't letting anybody say anything. Like if we go a year back, we had a prime minister. They removed him with a bogus case through Supreme Court. Now the same Supreme Court have given the verdict last week about the involvement of our establishment who overthrown the elected government, and all the media is censored. They're not allowed to talk about that Supreme Court verdict. So, those kind of things which we are facing. So we, as our, Army Chief promised that if there was any involvement found in this dharna, Faizabad dharna, I will next day resign as a Chief of Army Staff. But now with the Supreme Court verdict, everything is clear, but nobody is even allowed to talk. So anyway, we are here to listen. Gul Bukhari, sorry, I was not, ready to talk, but when we come, we have to express our view. Thank you so much again.
After Gul Bukhari, we have a question and answer. If you think you have to ask anything, feel free, because we are enjoying here and we believe of the people, by the people, for the people. Ms. Gul Bukhari.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Is everybody comfortable if I keep sitting?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I would love to actually have a conversation rather than tell you what I think I need.
To the Middle East, to Qatar, to support American troops. That's what started my political walk. I also have a degree from the University of Michigan. I actually have 2 degrees from the University of Michigan, one in physical therapy and one in science, which means I basically can treat every diagnosis under the sun that a specialized doctor cannot treat. And I've treated people aged 3 to 103 with all different kinds of diagnoses that span cancer and joint replacement and blood issues, and you name it, I've seen it, behavioral issues, mental health issues. That's mainly why I feel I'm qualified to run for the United States presidency in 2020. It is exactly 100 years after the Suffrage Act was enacted, where women were given the right to vote in 1920, and I feel that the New York City press may be holding 2020 for the right female candidate, and I want to be the woman for 2020 as a Democratic candidate. I need you behind me. I need every single person and all their contacts in this room behind me. Regarding media and the discrimination that journalists are going through right now, we've had 78 journalists murdered in 2018. We've had 325 imprisoned globally. We cannot have free speech shut down across the world, especially in America. I believe that we need to push me into the press, because the media darlings that will continue to exist in New York City cannot continue to be there. We need somebody like myself, a wimpy little kid from Detroit, Michigan, to rise up. But the only way we're going to be able to get that to happen is if the people and you show your powers through me. So I run by Kristen Noel Powers, but this is not about my powers. This is about your powers. My agenda is not my agenda. My agenda is your agenda. If you see something on my website that you do not like or that you want to add to, you need to email me at 2020@kristenpowers.com and tell me what you want, how you want to be heard on my website. I am not a leader that works from the top down. I'm a leader that works from the bottom up. I am the underdog in this race. But I feel that I am the most prepared person when it comes to mental wellness. I understand how the brain works. I have worked on 6 cadavers from head to toe, inside and out at the University of Michigan, and I was scrutinized in multiple exams to understand exactly how every single part of the human body works. That's the kind of president the United States needs right now, is a president that understands how we function as humans first, and then that will spread out into all of our industries. So I just ask you to please take one of my cards. Please donate. I have people on my staff right now that are working second jobs, and they need to not do that anymore. They need to be on my staff full time. I have looked at media vehicles to be able to be in Iowa full time, so I have an advantage over other senators that are stuck in their states, and in Washington, D.C. What is unique about me is I am not previously elected. I've lived in Michigan, Ohio, Florida, California, and New York. I've lived in 3 parts of Florida. So I can be in Iowa full time to shake every single hand before the caucuses. Iowa has 1.3 million people, and they have 99 counties. I would like to get out and meet every single Iowan so that I can get that press for your power. I also want to be able to travel I-10 from east to west so I can get out and see the entire border and see the internment camps where President Trump is now causing severe human atrocity, I believe, by separating the illegals. People need to come here legally, but to separate children from their families, in my opinion, is a crime. And then lastly, I want to be able to travel Route 66 so that I can go up through the heartland of the Midwest as well. But I cannot do that without your support. So please tell 10 people to tell 10 people about me and get behind me as much as you can. My last point is this: if 8 million first-time female voters get behind me with $10 each, that is $80 million. I will not lose with $80 million, even if anybody spends $500 million. I will not lose with $80 million. I will not lose, I believe, with maybe even $5 million of backing. So I want the first-time voters to rise up. The students of NYU, I need you to tell every other kid at the school to get behind me. I need the population of the kids to rise up. I want your generation in particular to graduate debt-free. I want to make that a reality in America. So I need to hear from you as well on that and how you think that can happen as well. So that's about all I want to say, but please go to Kristen Powers Campaign. Go email me at 2020@kristenpowers.com. My Twitter is Kristen, the number 4, and POTUS, P-O-T-U-S, President of the United States. I believe I can handle this job. I believe I've been prepared, and I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity, especially for Raja and for Nusrat for being in contact with me daily on my social media. They have been a constant support since about December 1st, and I am extremely grateful for their activism and their enthusiasm behind what I represent. So thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you, Christine. In 1990s, when we started our career as a media person in Pakistan TV, it was not easy, but nowadays we have hundreds of channels. Not only Pakistan, but every country we have so much channels, dozens of channels. Today we all enjoying our freedom in social media, regardless is right or wrong. But we exercise every day in Twitter and Facebook. But in Pakistan, not easy when you say truth. And I saw Miss Bukhari couple of talk show when she was on the right stand, and some other guest, they are trying to depress Miss Bukhari, especially I saw the one Auria Maqbool Jan. I'm not a great fan of Auria Maqbool Jan, but I think we should have some discipline when we speak in the talk shows. But unfortunately nowadays we lose the behavior, we lose the social behavior. That's the reason that anyone who can come and sit in front of the TV, they think they are the superior rather than others. But I really salute Gul Bukhari. She is standing for human rights, for injustices, and the all the above, she always said truth. Please welcome Gul Bukhari.
Did you want to let your other speakers go first?
Yeah, wind
Because
up.
I-
She the last one to wind up.
The only reason, yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, so I beg your pardon. Whatever my dear sister Nusrat said to me, I follow that. But let me introduce Rana Ramzan Educate. He's a lawyer. He's a senior lawyer in Pakistan. He has the 3 decades to struggle for human rights and social justices. Please welcome Rana Ramzan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm really sorry that I got late because I was looking parking and it's a very bad experience in New York area especially. And Mr. Malik told me that about Mr. Bukhari that she's a media person was disappeared in Pakistan, something about because it's happening, and I myself also suffering this problem because when we oppose the establishment in Pakistan, we have all the time this problem coming, and I'm a victim long time in Pakistan in different ways, and I opposed many martial law. When I was 13 years, I was arrested at the time of Ayub martial law first. Then Yahya Khan, I was arrested. Then Zawlak, I left the country and settled here. And I'm a writer also, but I know that I have seen the time when Pakistan newspaper used to be banned and cannot publish without a declaration in 70 and 80. And we know how much we suffered. And last 10 years we have practiced that media was independent in Pakistan and publishing all kind of news, especially television. And this last 5 months, 4 months, I don't know what happened. Again we saw the bans back to the media, and I seen that many senior journalists, they are crying because they were used to be given all kind of news. Now I heard about that you cannot talk about the Balochistan, you cannot talk about journals, you cannot talk about the judges, and you cannot talk about even current government. So this is the bad news, and we are working here, we're trying our best to overthrow these all kinds of things because the media was main sources of our information. So I will listen to other people. Thanks for everything.
Thank you very much. Earlier I said if you have a votes, if you have a right to vote, we have a big power here, Christine Powers. Please welcome.
Yes, I am quite a big person. Okay, I got my start in United States politics by running a company called Blackline Consulting and Project Management, which basically meant that I underwrote my own media projects starting on the first day of the Iraq War in 2003. I wrote books and I sent them overseas 6 different times to the Middle East, to Qatar, to support American troops. That's what started my political walk. I also have a degree from the University of Michigan. I actually have 2 degrees from the University of Michigan, one in physical therapy and one in science, which means I
In my thing, and at the first opportunity I got out of it and got back into what I felt strongly about, which was rights. And because of the lens of rights, I have been looking at the political process, the democratic project, and obviously abuses against various kinds of sections of society, you know, different kinds of rights violations, whether they be women's or children or ethnic minorities or religious minorities or freedom of expression. We have a lot of that problem there, and that's what connects you to current affairs in Pakistan. It's been a roller coaster in terms of all of these issues. We've been in a very strange situation of flux ever since democracy returned to the country. We saw the rule of the PPP after Pervez Musharraf left, and then the transition to the PMLN, and now transition to the PTI. So instead of actually talking about censorship myself, or media freedoms, or democracy, or rights violations, I'd love to have a conversation and learn from you, and maybe offer perspective where I may. And I think we have a lot to learn from each other. Would that be okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Your procession.
Yeah. So let's open the floor. Sure.
Please.
Myself?
Yes.
Ji, you know, I have. Ji, my name is Dr. Hi, I'm Dr. Asma Sadiq. I've been a pediatrician working here now for probably 30 plus years, and involved in a lot of interfaith work and regularly connected to Pakistan. I have an issue of looking at, I think human rights violations are universal, and unfortunately in Pakistan we've had a very feudal and military dominant country, and I think we're going back to the original creation of it as a buffer state created by the British for the Russians coming in, and all this history of it, and how we had external powers control even our presidencies and prime ministers since then. My issue with the role of the military, which has been so dominant, has been also there in the creation, whether it was Bhutto using the military or creating PMLN and Nawaz Sharif, and then negotiating with Zardari to get him to power, or whatever it was at that point. So I think it's being very careful not to get into the political divides of parties, of just military and civilian, when corruption and abuse of human rights has happened through both governments and through both systems. And I think creating that divide, I think we should speak up whether it's a civilian government doing it, whether it happened under PMLN or under Zardari or under military. I think being used either ways, and everybody uses that language, I think that prism is very important, and to look at each period of Pakistan differently, whether we had greater freedom of the press under Musharraf, even though there were violations, whether we had greater, because there is politics and power. And I think journalists really have a responsibility in speaking up on issues and not being used by either party or just getting locked into one box. It's like even in America, people who want to follow a certain agenda listen to Fox News or CNN News, and you don't have the common people, or who are not always keeping up, really get a biased point of view, and we look for what we want to hear. So putting that out there, I have concerns with just one time or period getting demonized, and I think it needs to be looked at historically in context to both Pakistan and also what's been happening geopolitically to where we are now.
Sure.
Thank you.
So that
Mouthful. That was my comment, basically, and I'm basically wanting to know where you stand on whether
very
on
if you had a kind of a specific question, I'd be able to answer.
Media, is it worse now than it was under Musharraf, or under Nawaz Sharif, or under Zardari? And is it just the issue of military picking up people of, and...
Okay, so I think that brings us to the present.
Right.
I think we can't it's going to be very hard to discuss maybe 40 years of history, but where we stand today, it's very interesting that a military dictator opened up the media, and it happened as a result of the Kargil War. The Indian media had independent channels and outlets, and they were reporting from there, and Pakistan was completely controlled. And Pakistan lost the narrative in the international world because of that. So Musharraf decided to have an independent media, similar to India's, so that we could also then counter in a similar way. We would have a vibrant media and so on and so forth. He thought it was a great idea, and he did it. And for a while, it was raucous, it was boisterous, it would, interestingly, after the honeymoon period, it would criticize Musharraf a lot. But there are some really interesting dynamics behind what was going on at that period in time towards the end. Channels were shut down. Remember Hamid Mir was doing programs from the football. Hey, he was not picked up and beaten and made disappeared person. Can you guess why? Anybody? It's interesting.
He wasn't criticizing government.
The government was Musharraf's, and he was criticizing, and there was a complete blackout. The channel was taken off air. Why do you think he wasn't picked up and beaten? Okay, and I'll give you another example. Lal Masjid happens. Oh my God! After the operation starts, the media is beating down on Musharraf, saying in Urdu, "Masoom bachiyan maar di, ye ho gaya, azab aa gaya," meaning, and you've killed innocent girls and this and that. Basically, to give you, I don't know if you know, a little bit of background. There is a red mosque. It has a cleric. There was a lot of arms storage over there. They were running a state within state right inside Islamabad, and there was a lot of media pressure and public pressure to enforce the rate of the state. And for a long time, the dictator Musharraf wasn't doing it because these are their own guys, but they went rogue. Eventually, when Musharraf felt that the public opinion is there, he went and conducted an operation. Right the next day, military dictator in power, and the media screaming, UAH, what have you done? You've killed innocent people, hundreds of them. Why do you think at that point Shahid Massoud, Hamid Mir, and so on, why weren't they beaten up? Anybody?
They weren't threatening them.
Who wasn't threatening who?
Like they weren't a real threat.
They weren't a real threat.
Why?
Because when you have that kind of power, it's not really democracy, so what people say doesn't matter.
Okay.
Well, they have a big following also.
But why are journalists now being picked up, beaten up, imprisoned, tortured? There's no military government even.
Underwriting politics between journalists.
Okay, so this is really interesting. I don't know who all knows